Welcome to our two people who just joined. Make sure to put in the comment section where you are from. And we are just waiting for a few more people to join. Some people are having trouble, so we will begin in 2 minutes. So go ahead, get your notepads ready and everything, and we will begin. Welcome, Elijah. We'll just wait one more minute. Good to see you, Sister Stacy. And good to see you as well, Elliot. I'm just writing down everybody who's here and we will begin. Alrighty, welcome everybody. And if you are new, at any point, feel free to ask questions in the comment bar. Good to see the girlets on who just joined. And we will be going throughout a slideshow to help you guys see it. And if you want a copy of the slideshow afterwards, please send me a text or an email. I'm just writing down one more name and then we will begin. Alrighty, so today we are learning about something very interesting. How to deal with someone who threatens to shut down your P7 club. So this is really important if you have someone who walks up to you and says, hey, I'm gonna try and shut down your P7 club, or if you have a parent who threatens you, or if you have a student who threatens to shut down your club. So today we're gonna be talking a lot about laws, about how you can keep your club running throughout this issue. We will also start with the spiritual aspect of this. And remember, ask questions at any point. So the first step I would suggest is I would first pray about it. Pray that God would help lead and guide you throughout this situation, and that he would give you wisdom and strength. And then ask your youth leader or your pastor to pray about it as well, or your friends to pray about it. Next, you would ask your pastor or youth pastor, both of them, to help you throughout this situation. This is why I ask pastors and youth pastors to join us for these conversations, is because I want them to know how to help you through these situations if you were unable to make some of these meetings. Then, if you have a law teacher at your school, and I know not all of you do, you would talk to your law teacher and say, how do I deal with this issue? What are the laws on this? Now, Canadian laws and American laws are different. So we're going to talk about the difference of that in a little bit here. So know your rights. So in American laws, you have the Equal Access Act. I know some of you were here last week when we talked about it, but I'm just going to talk about it again. So as a student, you have the right to express your religious faith at school. The Equal Access Act and the Free Clause both protect the right for you to start a student-led Bible club on your campus. Because remember, P7 clubs are student-led and student-driven. And then there's the EAA, is a federal law that was enacted in 1984 as a response to the anti-religious beliefs held by some courts and public school officials. So these are different acts that can help you throughout these situations, which you can show the person. And if you want a copy of the slideshow, I will give it to you as well. The Equal Access Act applies to all public secondary schools that receive federal financial assistance and have at least one or more student-led clubs that meet outside of the regular class time. So lunch, after school, during school, whatever. And it is not directly associated to the school's official curriculum. And if you go to that link there, it will take you directly to the Equal Access Act. I'll show you. You can see here where it takes you directly to the Equal Access Act. You can listen to it. You can read it yourself. You can go through all the actions and titles and stuff, which we went through a bit next week, so I won't fully go through that. So I just wanted to show you where it's at so you can get it. And that's it from that slideshow. Know Your Rights Part 2. Access refers not only to physical meeting spaces on the school permissions, but also to the privileges to other groups at school, including, for example, the right to announce club meetings in the school newspaper, bulletin board, public announcements, because I'm pretty sure most schools have public announcement systems. Like time is set aside by school before the actual class time begins or after class time. It also covers meetings that take place before or after school, as well as those occurring during lunch, activity periods, and other periods during the day where you can do fun things. I know different schools run in different ways, especially in Canada and the US. This slide is a bit lengthy, but it talks about like the Student Bill of Rights, which you have the right to identify your religious beliefs through signs and symbols. So you are free to express your religious beliefs through signs and symbols and stuff like that. Like if you want to show pictures, you can post that around your school and stuff. You have the right to talk about your religious beliefs on campus, the freedom of speech, the right to give religious literature on campus, which is in the Equal Access Act, allows students to freely meet on your campus and talk about religious issues and talk about the Lord. You have the right to pray on campus, which gives you the right to see you at the pool prayer, which is something we do once a year, where everybody gathers together at the pool and they all pray together. If you have more questions about that, we can talk about that later on. Then you have the right to carry or study your Bible on campus, which was given by the Supreme Court. It has said that student direct Bible reading is unconstitutional. So if they try and take away your Bible reading rights, that would be unconstitutional of the school to do. Are there any questions so far? I'll just pause for a moment and see if there's any questions, and if not, we'll continue on. Put it in the chat bar if you have any questions. I'll give you guys a minute for that. All right, it looks like nobody has questions, so we will continue on now. So the next one would be the right to do research papers, speeches, and creative projects with religious themes. So you have the right to if you want to do a research paper on God, you have the right to do that. Like, say you have a philosophy class and you want to prove how God exists. You have the right to do that. Your teachers can't say you can't do that, because then that would be going against the right to do research papers or speeches and creative projects with religious themes. You have the right to celebrate or study religious holidays on campus, listening to music, art, literature, and drama. You have the right to meet with school officials about your religious stuff. So you have all these rights in the Constitution that you can use if you have a situation like this that comes up. And then here's a very important quote. If you are taking notes, be sure to write it down. Students do not shed their constitutional rights at the schoolhouse gates. So basically what that means is once you get to the schoolhouse gates, once you get to the front of your school, that doesn't mean you stop your rights then and there. Your rights are still there. You can still have that freedom of speech or that freedom of religion. So the Equal Access Act helps you, where you have the right to meet voluntarily and that there is no government sponsorship and that no lawful activity is prohibited there. It's a bill to provide that no federal education funds may stop this from happening, that you can continue on this P7 club in your public school. So you can show them all this stuff to prove that you can run this P7 club. And then we got another part here. What about the separation of church and state? Some of you may have heard about this before. School administrations are concerned about the crossing the line when it comes to the involvement of the school in such faith-based clubs. The common phrase for this is the separation of church and state. However, this isn't the actual legal term, but rather it's a quote by Thomas Jefferson as an attempt to explain the Establishment Clause. The Establishment Clause prohibits the government, including schools, to establish a religion equally important to Establishment Clause, which protects citizens' right to practice their religion as they please, so long as the practice does not run afoul of public morals. And you can go to links on the p7club.com website to find out more information about that. P7 Club leader is student-driven club. According to the USC Equal Access Act, it shall be unlawful for public secondary schools which receive federal funding assistance that they can't limit students' rights to deny equal access or fair opportunity. So if they allow one club, they should allow another club. Any students who wish to conduct a meeting within the limited open forum of the basis of religion, public, philosophical, or any speech at such meetings, they are allowed to do so, which other links can be found on the P7 Club's website. Now we are going to talk more about the Equal Access Act. The Equal Access Act of 1984 forbids public schools from receiving federal funds if they deny students of their First Amendment the right to conduct meetings because of the religious, political, or philosophical views or other conduct of the speech at such meetings. That would be unconstitutional, and that would be against what the school should be allowing. And then they can't get their federal funds if they don't allow the students to hold those meetings. Public schools may not be prohibited student religious groups from meeting on school grounds after hours. West Side School District tried to stop a student religious club from meeting on its property after hours, which would be breaking the laws of the First Amendment. The club argued that the school's actions violated their free exercise rights and the federal Equal Access Act. The Equal Access Act was passed by Congress to ensure that any school receiving federal funds could not stop religious and other groups from using school property after hours or during lunch hours. The Supreme Court upheld the Equal Access Act against the Establishment Clause. challenge saying that the religion is all required by the First Amendment, so anybody can practice religion within their school. Now we're going to talk a little bit about this thing called infringement. If they try and take away your rights, like if a parent threatens to shut down your club and goes to the school about it and it actually goes through, that would be them infringing on your rights. So infringement means breaking the terms of a law or an agreement, which we're going to talk about. First, we're going to start by talking about what the U.S. Constitution has to say about infringing on a person's rights. So, 1 minute, I gotta take a sip of water. The U.S. Constitution does not have a single clause stating that you can infringe on somebody's rights, but it has several amendments. You have the Bill of Rights, outlaw those rights, and the 14th Amendment ensures these rights apply to all states. For example, the First Amendment prevents the government from restricting freedoms like speech or religion, and the Fifth and 14th Amendments establish due to progress and equal protection under the law, which prevents the government from infringing on life, liberty, or property without due progress. And that's the part of infringing on rights in the US. Now in Canada, it's a completely different story because they have a whole section that allows them to infringe on your rights, which is horrible. And they don't really put a line of where you can and can't infringe on somebody's rights. So in Section 1 of the Charter, the Reasonable Limits Clause does not infringe on rights, but provides the legal framework of justifying limits on them. When a law is found to be infringed, a charter right, the government can try to justify the infringement under Section 1 by providing it is a reasonable limit that can be justified in a free and democratic society. This justification is determined through a two-part analysis, often called the Oakes test, which we'll talk about a bit today, and other laws they have. Now we're going to look at the Oakes test here, if I can click on the link. So here's the Oakes test. In the Oakes test, first they look at, is infringement punishable by law? If they say yes, then you go down to the next one. Is the purpose of the law pursuing and subjectile? Is the law relationally connected to its purpose? If yes, you continue going down. Does the law minimally impair the infringed right? If yes, you continue going down. And do the positive effects of the law outweigh the negative effects of infringement? So all of these have to be yes. If one is no, then they cannot infringe on somebody's rights. So you have to have all of these as yes in the Oakes test. So that is the Oakes test. Okay, one here. All right. Rights are not absolute. The Charter recognizes that rights and freedoms can have reasonable limits in the Charter, which is completely different from the Constitution in the US. Justification is required. If a law or action infringes a charter right, the government has the opportunity to prove the infringement is justified. Then the Oakes test, which we just looked at, the government must meet the requirements of the Oakes test to justify the limit, and then they must have a burden of proof, which means the government bears the burden of proving that the infringement is justified. So to infringe on somebody's rights in Canada, you have to prove how it is a just reason. Like you can't just say, oh, I want to infringe on that person's rights. You have to give a good reason to infringing on their rights. All right, and then for more information, who you can contact, the P7 coordinator, which is me, will be happy to assist you in any way and answer any concerns you may have that aren't addressed on what we talked about today. I have my phone number and my email there, which you can take a picture of if you'd like to. That is the Alaska-Yukon email that I have on that screen, which I do check regularly, so you can count on me checking it at least once or a few times throughout the week. So I will definitely check that. And that is information for you personally, or if somebody you're trying to talk to about allowing your P7 club to happen has any questions or anything, or if someone tries to shut down your club, you can have them contact me. And we are almost done here. November 8th at 3 p.m. Alaska time and 5 p.m. Yukon time will be our next P7 training meeting. I hope that works for everyone. If it works for you, please put a thumbs up in the chat bar, which I hope everybody knows where that is. Send in photos and videos for HYC slideshow because that is coming up soon. And finally, we need all P7 leaders help at HYC P7 booth. I sent out a message this morning to all of our P7 leaders. So I need to know what days and times you can do that at HYC. I have Wednesday night that I need people, Thursday day, Thursday night, and then I also need people on Friday day and Friday night at HYC. So if you could send all that information in, that would be great. I see a few chats coming in, so I'm just gonna check that real quick. All right, Aaliyah says that next date's fine. Maisie says that's fine. The Gerlich says that's fine. All right, so sounds like that next date is set in stone now. And make sure you send in all that information, the photos and videos for HYC slideshow, and make sure you respond to that text P7 leaders. It's in the group chat that I just created for all the P7 leaders because I do need your help there. And if you right now, if you know what day or time you can do it, please also send in the chat bar if you can do like a Wednesday night or Thursday during the day or Thursday night or Friday during the day at HYC. And I will send out the dates of HYC as soon as I get them. And our last slide, I believe, questions, comments, concerns. If you don't have any, just put a check mark. Feel free to ask questions or comments or concerns. The floor is open to everyone. I'll be waiting until I hear from everybody if they are good or not. All right, I got one check mark that somebody's good. Somebody else said they're good. Just waiting for a few others to respond and then we'll end the call. All right, no questions. All right, I'll wait a few more minutes because I know there's a couple more people I'm waiting on to see if they have any questions. Hi, Sister Stacy, I see ya. We're waiting on like two more people to see if they're good. Does anyone want to share any testimonies or anything before we end today?
I got to preach at my mom's church.
Well, that's good.
To train for P7.
Ooh. How's it going for you?
It's going good.
That's good. Well, we're excited to see what goes on through that P7 club. I know Micah did a really good job last year, and I'm looking forward to what you're going to be doing through Elliott.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I think that's it for now. Thank you everyone for joining us. I will see you guys on November 8th. Have a wonderful week.